For joining us again on the My Pocket Preceptor podcast. This is episode number 6. Thank you so much for coming along the journey with us as we talk to new to practice nurses. And today we have an amazing, amazing nurse. Her name is Aziza. We worked on a floor together. I recently resigned from that floor, but I remember meeting her and she is amazing. She's such a good soul, so well mannered, and it's like the perfect daughter. So I would love to share her story with you and have her tell you a little bit about herself. So Aziza, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and why you decided to become a nurse.
So my name is Aziza. I am a graduate from Drexel. Been in nursing for almost a year now. Main reason I decided to become a nurse was I always knew I was going to work in the medical field. It was something that I always aspired to do since I was a child. Um, and I don't know, I just feel like I enjoy helping people a lot. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like nursing is a really good like stepping stone for that type of care. Um, and then eventually, we'll try and do different things, but nursing is just kind of what I wanted to start with for now.
Awesome. And so it's such a great thing to do because as I've progressed through my nursing career, I really found that nursing could be the foundation. So don't make it the ceiling, as you're saying. It's a really
Yeah.
great foundation to earn good money in your early 20s. And then if you learn how to, be strategic, save your money, invest in other things, investing to your retirement and those kinds of things, investing into other things that interest you. I'm telling you, nursing will be like a great springboard for you into other
100%. Yeah.
things. So it's been amazing. Yeah. So you've been a nurse, it's almost a year. So what has your experience been over like the 11, 12 months so
It's
far?
definitely been like, I want to say it's definitely been a learning experience, a learning curve. Coming from, I was working in a retail environment prior to this, even though it was like an eyeglass office, it was more so based off of like selling and getting that type of experience down. So coming into nursing, it's like you're dealing with people's health in a
Mm-hmm.
much deeper way. Um, so it was just like having to get comfortable in that, dealing with families. You have to learn everything on your unit. So
Yeah.
it's been a lot of knowledge through the last couple months. Um, but I've been enjoying it. Like I feel like a lot of people go into nursing, or like when you first start off, you're gonna be extremely nervous, just
Mhm.
uncomfortable. But like once you start to get into like a flow of things, it's great. I'm enjoying
So
it.
how long did it take you? I mean, everyone is different, but on average, how long did it take you to like get in the flow once you came off orientation?
Once I was off orientation, I want to say maybe like 2 months.
Nice.
I feel like I was able to get into the flow pretty quickly. I try to use orientation as like that being my stepping stone or my foundation to like knowing how I want to do things once I'm off orientation. Um, I think a lot of people they're more focused on like when they're on orientation, pleasing their preceptor or
Yeah.
like memorizing whatever their preceptor is telling them or memorizing like the little things. But I think orientation is the perfect start to just like learning how you are going to be once you no longer have that support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so very early on, I was just kind of trying to get into the flow of how I once I don't have no longer have this support,
Mm-hmm.
how I'm gonna be able to like manage on my own. So I was able to get that flow pretty quickly because of that.
And for context, what type of floor are you working on right now?
I am on an intermediate neuro floor, so step down from the ICU a little bit more than being on like a med surge floor. Um, so you see a lot of critical patients, but still fairly stable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also really nice because you don't get as many patients as if you were
Yeah.
on a med surge floor, where
Yeah.
but you also don't get like severe, super severe patients as if you were on an ICU. So it's a very nice like middle ground for starting, I would say.
Right. And you came as a new grad into that role,
Hmm.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's good. I think our manager, so we used to work on the same floor, and I just left to focus more on my business, which is what I'm doing right now. So the manager hired quite a few new grads into that role, and I think it really fits. Like, there's a residency program, There's a 12-week orientation. And I think on our floor, we just have nurses who I find to be supportive. Now, mind you, I'm biased because
Amazing.
a lot of them are my friends.
I would say that's also one of like the main things that made me decide to stay, or even maybe decide to take the job on that floor. When I came in for my shadowing, you could just feel the vibe. It's a very everyone's always willing to help. Everyone's very nice. They're very kind, and that also makes a huge difference in like starting off as a new to practice nurse, especially because again you're going in with this. You're not as confident. This is a new environment, new place. So when you have good support system from your staff and
Yeah.
your other coworkers, it makes a world of difference.
World of difference. And that's what I teach now is like do a shadowing. So describe a little bit about your shadowing experience. Was it something that you told them that was important to you in your interview process, or was that something a part of how the unit did their vetting for new nurses?
I think it's a part of the unit, or I don't know if it's a part of just like the whole hospital system in general,
Okay.
but it did. It was like you did your initial phone call, and then they'll set up like a shadowing day for you, and the shadowing day just consisted of like a couple hours, maybe like 3 hours, and like the first hour is you actually get to be like on the floor. You help whatever nurse you're shadowing, so you get a little bit of what they do in that first hour,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do your in-person interview after. So
Okay.
the shadowing was very nice too because it also, even though it's a very brief little second of what you will see in a 12-hour shift, it's still enough for you to kind of get an idea of like how your day is going to start. So I did
Absolutely.
like that we had like a shadowing aspect to it prior to the actual interview.
Yeah, that is so key. And as I said, I'm teaching all my clients or like the people on TikTok and things like that to go ahead and shadow. And then you could see like, I don't really like the vibe on this floor.
Yeah.
Or like the manager just stays in the office all day. Or
Right,
there's no
exactly. Yeah.
CNAs to support you. Like there's so many things. It's like a first date. You can decide,
Yeah.
okay, I want to go on another date, or like this is
It's
never
time to
going
find
to
something else.
work. So that is amazing. So what are some of the things that surprised you um, as a new to practice nurse that you didn't really expect coming out of nursing school? Some context for that. A lot of times in nursing school, we see more of like the utopia of how things should happen in a perfect world. What were some of the things that you experienced that you weren't necessarily prepared for?
I feel like you said, in nursing school, they kind of show you more of like the ideal way of doing things. So the best way to talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
how to combat certain situations, like how to troubleshoot certain things. But when you actually get into the unit and get onto the floor, you realize that it's almost like a 180 in terms of what they actually
Mm-hmm.
teach you in school. Like school just kind of prepares you for the basic
Not
stuff. Like they
killing the
teach you like the
patient.
professional.
Yeah.
Like they teach you like the professional aspect of it, but like when you're actually there you have to know how to, it's a lot of communication, I think, like
Yeah.
understanding people. And I will say working in retail definitely helped me a lot with that, because you're always seeing so many different characters and so many different individuals coming in. Being in a hospital is kind of like the same thing. Like you
Yeah.
have to know how to adapt like that. And just also it's like, again, if you always come in with like your day's gonna go just this very specific way based off of what you learned in school. But once you're there, you know anything is possible. You
Yeah.
could start off with an amazing shift, and then by the end of it, you're like, this is completely not what I was expecting, or vice versa. So
Right.
I think that was like one of the things that like I guess shocked me the most was like how different it is from what you learn in school.
Mhm.
But it's still not, I don't want to say as difficult, but like you're able to adapt
Right.
once you understand that mindset that this is not like what you think it's going to be, pretty much.
Right. Right. Like again, you're saying they teach you the fundamentals. Obviously, you need to know the medications and all those
Right.
things, being the safety, how to think critically. But they can't tell you all the nuances that can happen in a day. It's infinite amount of possibilities, as
Exactly.
you're saying, that
Yeah.
can happen with your day. Awesome. So, being a nurse can be challenging, especially in the first year. A lot of nurses complain about new nurse anxiety. So they may
Hmm.
feel anxious going into a shift, like, oh my gosh, what assignment am I going to get today? Or, yeah, usually it's around that, like the type of assignments that they're going to do what's the charge nurse going to give me? So how do you kind of combat some of the new nurse anxiety for you? Is it having a certain affirmation that you say to yourself before you going in, having a certain routine that you do before you go into your shift?
For me, before my shift, I usually just kind of go with a positive mindset. I always
Yes.
tell myself, I'm going to get a good assignment. I'm going to have a good shift. Even if it's a bad shift, I'm going to have a good shift. So that's kind of like my mantra before I go to work, especially if I'm working like a long period where there's like 3 or 4 days in a row. I always have
Mm-hmm.
to go in with like, it's going to be a good couple days. Like, don't stress it. You're going to have support no matter what. Um, because I think that also plays a lot into it too. Like I feel
Yes.
like as a new nurse, you're so worried about like what if an emergency pops up? Like what am I supposed to do? Who's gonna help me? Like, but you have to have faith in the people that you work with a lot,
Mm-hmm.
um, and also have faith in yourself that you're gonna know what you need to know in that moment.
Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself. That is amazing. I'm not even going to say anything else because that was perfect. Um, so okay, how do you also incorporate like self care into nursing? Because a lot of nurses can get burnt out. Like I don't even remember when I became burnt out, but I know I was for sure burnt out in my career. So, and I think that lesson came maybe midway my career to really like
Mhm.
understand the importance of self-care, putting myself first. So what are some of the things that you do, whether at work or when you're home, to promote self-care, make sure that Aziza is good so that she can be good for her patients, but not only that, just to make sure that Aziza is good?
Yeah. For me, I once I'm out of like if I'm not at work, I just try to not think about work. I know that's not like the most ideal way to go about it, but I just feel like don't take that work stress home.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably the best way to just kind of keep yourself calm, keep your mind clear. That if something happens at work or if like it's been a rough day, talk it out with whoever you can talk it out with, get it off your chest, and
Mm-hmm.
then move on. You know, look at how you can improve from what you did, and just move on from it. So for me, that's what I usually do is like after, especially after like a long period, like if it's like I said, 3 or 4 days working, I will reflect on those 3 days, think of all the positives, think of all of the negatives, and then file it away for another time.
Yeah.
If I'm at work, it's just making sure you can take a break. I feel like a lot of times we're just running around back and forth every hour because there's always something that's going to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
But finding even if it's 15 minutes where you just either walk to the bathroom or like
Yeah.
hide off, go downstairs for a second and come back up, just anything like that, just to give yourself a second away from the madness of working in a hospital.
Floor. Yeah, and those are the times when you need it the most. We work night
Yeah.
shift. Is it still night shift for you?
Oh yeah.
So, like the nights when it's the craziest, that's when you really need to walk away, and that's when you really need
Hmm.
to step away, and that's when it's really tugging at your heart, like, oh, do I leave? Or, I found that early on in my career, I was like trying to please people, right? So I'm like, man, I'm not going to ask them to watch my patients. I'll just suffer it out and sit here and eat and chart versus like, no, I really really need the break because my assignment sucks, and so
Yeah.
I this is when I really need it. So I'm going to tell the charge nurse I'm going off the floor for 20 minutes or whatever the time may be, and I'll be back. Like, I have my phone, I have
Hmm.
a way for you to reach me, but it took me a really long time to set those like boundaries for myself. And so that's one of the things that I find is super important as a new to practice nurse, is to learn how to implement self-care and advocate for
100%.
yourself just as much as you advocate for your patients.
Yeah, and I think it's again, like you were saying, as a new to practice nurse, you're so worried about pleasing people, and that includes not only your patients but your coworkers, because you don't
Yeah.
want to leave like a bad impression on them, like, oh, this person keeps trying to run away, they're doing this and that. But you have to also remember that we're all here for each other. So even if you don't feel comfortable, maybe asking another coworker who's also busy, ask charge.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many different resources you can ask, but again, it's you have to advocate for yourself, like you said. That's a really important thing, and it's going to take some time to learn how to do it. I'm still learning how to be like, hey, like I need to take a break, or hey, if I'm back again tomorrow, please don't give me this assignment or give me these things. It's
Yes.
hard because you feel horrible because you're like, dang, somebody else is going to have to deal with this. But you can't keep putting all that pressure on you. It's going to burn you out even quicker. So yeah,
Yeah.
advocating is huge.
I love that. I'm all about I do not have the capacity to take care of this patient 3 nights in a row.
Right.
Sometimes not even 2 nights. Sometimes one night with a patient
Too
assignment is
much.
just, I can barely make it. So what I would do is, as you're saying, in the morning after the shift is over, I'd be like, you know what, I'm back tonight. I'm not able to take this patient. It's just mentally I can't do it. So
Hmm.
please reassign me, so I don't have any problems when I come in at 6:58 to start my shift. But yeah, learning to just say, no, I'm not the best fit for this patient. Again, I'm not the best fit for this assignment. You can word it differently, but it is going to be scary. You may feel like, oh, they're judging me, they're talking about you. They probably are, but but learn to be okay with that. Learn to be
Yeah.
okay with them saying whatever it is that you think they may say. Just learn to be okay with that. So
Yeah,
that
you
is
just have
so
to know it's like,
beautiful.
yeah. I was just gonna say, you just have to know it's like in the moment because once the day passes, no one cares after that.
No one cares.
So.
Wow, Aziza, you're so much more like enlightened than I even realized. Like working with you, this is amazing. So you're hitting on a lot of the points that I really teach about, especially in my ebook, which is like setting boundaries, which are super
Hmm.
important. Setting boundaries for yourself, even with patients. They need to have boundaries as well. I've had patients who would like to be verbally abusive, and I do not accept
Hmm.
that at all. I stop that in its tracks. Even patients who may be older and have some cognitive impairments and may try to physically be aggressive, that as well. But just learning, as you're saying, to set boundaries for yourself with regards to assignments, with regards to people always giving you a heavy assignment because, oh, Tanya's
Hmm.
not going to say anything. Like she always takes the
Exactly.
heavy assignment. Um, and then also with like self-care, we talked about that. One of the other things that's super important that I try to educate all new nurses about is their finances, right?
Mm.
So it's a touchy subject. We're not going to get intrusive with our questions, but how have you found that you know you're managing your money as a nurse? Because coming in, it was the most amount of money I'd ever made when I started
Yeah.
working as a nurse. So how do you what are some of the challenges that you've had with your finances? Is it like getting a Coach bag, that's $10,000, or like getting a new car? Like, what are some of the challenges that you faced, and how have you worked through those financial things that can happen with your money?
Um, for me, what I've been trying to do is every paycheck I get, I automatically put most of it into like another account. So that way it's not directly connected to like my debit card and I'm not spending my entire paycheck in one go. But even then it's like you'll see something, you're like, dang, I kind of want to get that. Like, or I can
Right.
afford that. So a lot of it is like what I've been doing is like I'm giving myself my first year to like go a little crazy, but not too crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that year of like fun, like you enjoyed those first couple paychecks. Now it's time to get like really serious with the saving. Um, so I won't lie, I have been having some fun with my paychecks, but I'm also trying to remind myself I need to still have like a little safe like a little safety net. Um,
Yeah.
because like you said, this is the most amount of money I've had working
Period
anywhere. So
for
I'm
me.
used to
Yeah.
like having to do paycheck by paycheck. Like that's how I've lived for like the first like 5 years of myself working. So
Mm-hmm.
coming in now, it's like, oh, I don't have to live like this anymore. But I
Right.
still have that mentality, I think, a little bit. So I always know, let me have a safety net. Like even
Mm-hmm.
if it's $100, it's always good to just have some type of safety net.
Absolutely. And that's so amazing. And the thought that really kicked it into high gear for me, and I just realized it maybe a couple years ago, is if as a new nurse I saved 10, not even a new nurse, just as a nurse, period.
Hmm.
I've been a nurse for almost 17 years. Let's do the math. So if I saved about $10,000 a year per year, right? So that's like 800 and something. Yeah, give or take, right? Like $800-900 a month, right? And that you can do that if you pick up an extra shift, Also, when your tax money comes, I used to get about $3,500 from when my taxes came in. You get certain monies. If I would just save $10,000 a year, Aziza, I would have like close to $170,000 right now. Do I have $170,000? No, not saved up, right? Or even invested. So yeah, that is a major key. But just thinking things like that, and if you say, "Well, Tanya, 10,000 is too much," what if you say 5,000? Then that would have been $70,000 that I had at my disposal right now to do whatever it is that I want to do. If you really think about it, like, could you, as a nurse, save $5,000 to $6,000 a year? Yes, right. It's like $500 a month. You pick up an extra shift. It's just learning how to take a look at your money. And we work so hard for it. And one of the things that I found that I had to change my mindset about money with regards to nursing is that I always be like, oh, I'll just pick up an extra shift and then I'll just make, $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever, taxes taken out, whatever, it's $800. You could do that and you could get $800 in a day, right? If you do agency. And so it's really important for us to set the practice, especially as we're beginning our career, to know how to strategically tell our money what to do and where to go. If not, it will run away.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you for just sharing that. Another nurse that I did on the podcast, he used to work with us too, Dom said in his first year, same thing, you just kind of go through the money, but then he started to work with a financial advisor, which with our company, we have it where with our 401k, I think we have, is it Principal? I forget who, or Vanguard. It may be Vanguard, who's our company at the old hospital system. And they have a financial advisor that you can talk to, and they can direct you on how to invest your money, and it's free of cost. It's complimentary with, they tell you that in the HR book, but nobody reads that stuff. What did you say?
Oh no, I
think it's coming out a bit.
Financial advisor.
Okay. It's saying there's some communication issues. I may have to edit out this part. Can you please say that part again?
Just I'm going to look into like a financial advisor, especially for like investing and stuff like that. Just to kind of get.
You are so smart. Get that ball rolling for sure. Get that ball rolling for sure, especially with like a Roth IRA, which will grow tax-free and those kinds of things. That's major key. So yeah, check it out. With the company, there's a financial advisor that comes complimentary with the package that they offer. And then the other thing, he said he didn't drink alcohol. So like when he would go out, he just doesn't buy alcohol. And how many times have you gone and you got like, you go to the Cheesecake Factory, you get whatever, chicken fingers and fries, and then you get a drink and you're like, $50.
No, yeah. That's also been like a big thing, going out and like you look at the menu, you're like, oh, I can get anything on this menu. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I can make it back. But then you also have to tell yourself it's a big deal. It adds up if you're doing this often or every day or however, because everyone's different with like how they formulate like meals and stuff like that. But
yeah,
it adds up. Long story short, it all adds up. So you have to kind of look at like even the little expenses as well.
Absolutely, so true. Takeout for me, the one time I was flabbergasted. I think I spent like $400 a month with just takeout, and I was like, "This is crazy." Alrighty. So what are some things that you do for fun outside of work? So nursing is not our life. Like, you are not just a nurse. Nursing is what you do as a profession right now, right? But that doesn't encapsulate who you are. So what are some of the things that you do for fun? Do you have any hobbies?
So I like going out with friends, get some fresh air because you're in that hospital all day long. It's always good to just kind of go out and see some other things. But besides that, I've been getting into like Lego building for some reason. I find that to be very relaxing, very fun. I used to journal a lot back in the day. I haven't really gotten into it as much recently, but journaling, I started reading again.
Nice.
And then just like very basic things, watching TV, playing video games, just like anything that's gonna get me to like relax and calm down. That's kind of what I've been doing.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. So, going into work into night shift, you have 3 shifts coming up. What is the music that you're jamming to when you're driving into work? And like, what are you listening to when you leave when your shift is over? Because that could be different. You
Oh
could go in blasting Burna Boy and then you come out listening to something
yeah,
else.
like Adele or something. For me, I listen to like anything that's gonna like hype me up and like keep me energized, especially working
Mm-hmm.
night shift. You got to get through them long hours, especially at like 3 a.m. onward. So a lot of like, I want to say a lot of rap music, unfortunately, a lot of rap music.
No, it worked.
Um, a lot of like pop music, just anything that's lively and fun. And
Mm-hmm.
then coming out of work, kind of the same thing, honestly. Like trying to get myself energized back up again because it's like it's been a long 12 hours. I'm tired, but I need the energy to go home. So listening to that type
Yeah.
of stuff, or maybe some like R&B, anything that's just gonna keep me like soothe me and keep me calm.
Hmm. So, a few more questions as we're coming to a close. What are some of the things that you would say, tips that you'd recommend to get through night shift, especially if you're coming off orientation and you're starting out on nights? What are some tips to help me get through, like top 2 tips to help me get through night shift?
Sleep as much as you can before the shift and after your shift.
Yeah.
Um, and then just getting into like a rhythm, especially on night shift. For me, I do a lot of like cluster of my care going into
Mm-hmm.
night shift, just knowing that like just the same way I want to sleep, my patients want to sleep.
That's a good.
So if I can get them, to a point where they're comfortable, get them to sleep, then I can relax and get through the night as well. And then I'll
Mhm.
also be relaxed enough if something were to arise because night shift you're not going to have as much support as during the day shift, just in terms of like staffing
Mhm.
wise. So if something were to happen during the night, if I'm relaxed prior, knowing that my patients are comfortable, or if it is something with one of my patients, knowing that my other patients are comfortable, knowing that I'm prepared mentally because I've been a little bit more relaxed from the beginning of my shift, it does help getting through night shift,
Mhm.
having that.
Awesome, awesome. And then lastly, so you're almost coming up on your year of being a nurse. Looking back, what are some things that you would tell yourself? The top 2 things that you would say to your new nurse self coming off orientation?
Don't stress. Take it day by day for sure. Um, and have faith in the people you work with. I think when I first came off of orientation, I didn't really know anybody. So, you know, I always felt like if something were to happen while I'm working, I only have myself to rely on. But now
Mhm.
that I've, it's been a couple more months and like I'm getting to know people and, a lot of our schedules are starting to line up. So I'm seeing familiar faces. I know if anything is to happen, I'm going to be fine. I don't need to stress as much as I was stressing in the beginning. Like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then, as you know, as you're finding out, and I'm finding out as well, the more you trust other people, that's really an indication of how much you trust yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
For sure.
that is beautiful. So, thank you so much for the gems that you've given to us. There's so much value that you've added to our community here. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before you leave? And any final thoughts?
Um, Final thoughts. I don't really have anything.
Okay.
Just have faith in yourself. For whoever's like new nurses watching this, just have a lot of faith in yourself. Don't You're going into a new profession, so of course you're gonna feel very uncomfortable, but just know with the right resources and the right support, or even if you do things on your own outside of work, like research or like learning up um, just learning about new things based off of your unit, you're gonna be fine. Like you're gonna do good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Aziza, and thank you guys for watching this episode of My Pocket Preceptor. Oh, my pleasure. You guys can go ahead and get my ebook, which is linked in the description. And Aziza, you'll get a free copy. I'll send you all the information for that. All my guests get a free copy of the ebook. And then if you want to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, you can go through the link in my bio and the description as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. See you in the next episode. Okay.